What if I told you that some of the most celebrated pastors in Africa are not called by God, but by dark spirits from Benin? At this point, I know for sure that it won't be news to you. But what if I told you that behind some of the largest churches in your city, there are secret covenants made in blood and power drawn from the throne of demons? Well, in this episode's confession, we bring you the shocking, raw, and unfiltered truth from the very man who spent 17 years initiating pastors into a secret occult, connecting them directly to the dark lords of Benin. He was the recruiter, the ritual leader, the man behind the scenes. But now, he has broken free, and he's here to tell it all. Warning, what you're about to hear is not for the faint-hearted. It is a spiritual expose like no other. If you're a pastor, a believer, or someone seeking truth in this age of deception, you need to watch every second of this story. Before we dive in, make sure you join our Telegram community, where we share exclusive content, real deliverance cases, and connect with thousands uncovering the truth. The link is in the description below. Or search the name Dangerous African Confessions. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to our second YouTube channel where we post deeper teachings, interviews, and behind-the-scenes investigations. You don't want to miss what we're exposing next. This is Dangerous African Confessions HD. Let's go and listen to what we have.
Well, I will start by saying that the man you see today is not the same as the boy who once sat under the mango tree in Occult village, watching fireflies and dreaming of becoming a teacher. No, that boy died the night the forest called my name. I was born in 1979, in a small town between Ibadan and Ajibo. My mother died when I turned 1 year and some months. My father too is no more, but they told me that his death was suicide, but I know now it was not. After that, my uncle, a man the villagers feared and respected in equal measure, took me in. Uncle Agbo lived on the edge of the village, near the Forbidden Grove. Children were warned not to go near his compound. The elders whispered that he was an Ogboni elder, but no one had proof. He was a quiet man, too quiet. But in that silence was power. When I turned 14, he began to speak to me in ways that made my bones shake. Not just words, incantations. Words that were never taught in school or church. He said I was chosen by the old spirits. That I had the third eye. I laughed at first. But everything changed on the 9th day of the 9th month, in the dead of night. He woke me up around 2 a.m. We are going to the forest, he said. Tonight, your real life begins. I followed into the thick forest behind his compound. I swear on my mother's grave, something entered me that night. You see, we reached a clearing where a circle of men stood around the fire. They wore red wrappers and white chalk on their faces. They didn't speak. They chanted. That night, they made me kneel. A ram was brought, its throat was slit, and the blood was poured on my head. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just watched. Then the chief priest came forward, a short, dark man with a snake cord around his neck. He held a bowl made of a human skull. Inside was a black liquid. He said, "Drink, child of the under-earth. The gate must open." I drank. I died. Not physically, but my innocence, my fear, my light, it all died that night. When I woke up, it was morning. My uncle was smiling. "You are now one of us," he said. "But this is only the beginning." He told me I had been marked. That from that night, no ordinary spirit could harm me. That I now belong to a lineage older than Nigeria, older than the white man's Bible. He said we were keepers of the veil, descendants of the first dark covenant between man and the spirit realm. My training began immediately. I was no longer a boy. I was an initiate of Oro Alice Meiji, a society that had existed for centuries, long before colonialism. I was taught the language of the shadows, how to speak in tongues that could summon spirits, how to write sigils in blood that could open portals. My tasks were simple at first: watch, learn, obey. I was taken to burial grounds at midnight to call spirits from freshly dug graves. I saw ghosts of dead people rise and answer questions. I was blindfolded and made to sleep inside coffins, to conquer fear. I was taken to the Ocean River and made to bathe in water mixed with menstrual blood and grave dust for spiritual sight. Nothing shocked me anymore. At 17, I was sent to Benin. My brother, I thought I had seen darkness. I was wrong. Benin was a spiritual hub. There are places I would call temples for this conversation, where men no longer looked like men. I was taken to one. I didn't go to the forest. This was a physical building. The entrance was hidden beneath a mechanic workshop. We passed through a steel door, down spiral stairs into a candlelit chamber with walls made of skulls. There, I met him, the emissary of the Dark Lords, an ageless man they called Baba Usa. He didn't speak, not with his mouth. His voice came straight into your mind. He looked at me and said, "You will feed us. You will raise shepherds for the sheep, but their rod will be serpents." I was tasked with a mission, recruit men of God. I was to go back, rise in ranks, and begin identifying pastors who were hungry for fame, for miracles, for money. Many already prayed without power. My job was to give them the power they desired, but from a source they would never fully understand. This was the beginning of my 17-year reign as a cult leader, a spiritual recruiter, a gatekeeper between pulpits and the underworld. By the time I turned 25, I had already helped initiate 3 pastors, 1 in Lagos and 2 in Accra. Their churches exploded overnight. People thought they were anointed. They were just powered by darkness. If you think your pastor is from God just because he quotes the Bible, you are wrong. I have trained men to quote scriptures while demons sit on their shoulders. Power. That was the currency of the realm I served. From the outside, it looked like I was just a young man hustling like everyone else. But in the hidden corners of this world, in the back rooms of shrines, at midnight junctions, in the thick groves behind towns people fear to enter, I was learning how to break men's minds, bend spirits to will, and raise altars that swallowed destinies. After my first trip to Benin, I returned with a sealed mission: recruit shepherds, twist the staff, turn them into wolves. Let me tell you the truth, most people think we go around chasing pastors, seducing them with money or women. No. That's not how it works. They come. Most of them come on their own, desperate, frustrated, broken. Some have churches but no power. Others have calling but no crowd. A few have tasted glory before and want more. These are the easiest prey. You see, before I ever laid a hand on a pastor, I was trained to become a master of spiritual seduction, to read the hunger in men's eyes. I remember the emissary in Benin told me, "To catch a man of God, you must understand his deepest fear." No pastor wants to be irrelevant. Feed that fear. So I was trained in spiritual manipulation, how to project dreams into a target's sleep. Chants in Edo, Yoruba, and Latin, to open portals or send confusion. Crafting power objects, rings that command crowds, handkerchiefs that heal with demons, perfumes that make people fall when you wave your hands. Disguises, how to blend in as a spiritual consultant, prayer contractor, or revival partner. I became a ghost in the spiritual world. Untraceable. Invisible to most pastors. But when I stepped into their churches, spirits reacted. The true prophets could sense me, they would start sweating. Their praise leaders would fall sick. But those with hidden hunger, they smiled. I remember it was in 2004, in Ikeja, Lagos. There was a young pastor. But today he has branches in 5 countries. Back then, he had a small prayer center, with barely 30 people. I attended one of his night vigils, pretending to be a visitor. He preached fire, but there was no manifestation. No one fell. No revelation. Just noise. After the service, he walked up to me and said, "Brother, there's something on you. Are you a prophet?" I smiled. That's how they start. I offered to mentor him. Took him to a prayer mountain in Ekiti. We fasted, or so he thought. I was doing something else entirely. At midnight, I poured a concoction of hyena blood, vulture tears, and menstrual waste into the soil where we knelt. He was praying to Jesus, but the altar beneath him was soaking up his destiny. That night, he saw visions. Not from God, but from the watchers. Spirits that gave him information to impress his congregation. He was hooked. I gave him his first ring, made of brass and soaked in a virgin's blood. I told him to never remove it, and always wear white during deliverance. He asked no questions. Within 3 months, his crowd had tripled. Women were fainting when he spoke. A man walked out of a wheelchair. But all of it was illusion, powered by forces he didn't understand. He came back begging for more. That's when I took him to Benin. Every new recruit had to make a deal. We called it Isonami, or the Covenant of Turning. How it works is that the pastor would be taken to the border town of Exposé in southern Benin. There, in a mud house guarded by albino dogs, he would bathe in a river laced with python bile and ash from burned Bibles. This was to cleanse him of conscience. Then, at midnight, he would kneel before the image of Ekpia, one of the Dark Lords. A voice, always deep and cold, would ask just one question. Who do you serve? Once he answered, he was sealed. We would cut his thumb, place the blood on a scroll, and the rest was done in the spirit. Afterward, he would be shown 2 things. One is future, a vision of crowds, wealth, and influence. 2 is cost, usually a child, a sibling, or a spiritual sacrifice every year. Some cried. A few tried to back out. But most accepted. Their hunger was stronger than their fear. Once initiated, I gave them spiritual tools. The ring of command, made with bones of dead twins. The perfume of influence, once sprayed on the pulpit, no one can leave until service ends. The Bible of shadows, a black Bible that speaks during sermon preparation. Demons whisper scriptures to preach. The mirror of revelation shows people's secrets, but brings madness if overused. Each of these tools came with rules. Break them, and you would face judgment, either spiritual insanity, or death by invisible fire. So to tell you the truth, by 2009, I had over 40 pastors across Nigeria, Ghana, and Togo. They didn't know each other that much. Just some few of them knew one another, only I knew all of them. I became the central priest, their mediator to the Dark Lords. I created a communication system using old ritual codes. We never called each other. Everything was done through spiritual messengers or encoded meetings during fake revivals. Some of the churches you call Holy Ghost Fire centers today are nothing but shrines covered in white paint. They don't pray for deliverance, they harvest souls through false altars. And you, the members, are offerings. Honestly, there were moments I wanted to stop. Times when the screams of innocent souls, people who came for healing but died spiritually, haunted me. But power is a drug. Once it takes root, it doesn't let go easily. Until that day, when a certain pastor fought back, not with oil, not with noise, but with purity. That day, I saw something break in the spirit. And for the first time in 15 years, I was afraid. But that story, I will tell it later. You see them on TV. You hear them on the radio. They shout fire, and people fall. They wave their hands, and crowds scream. They claim to heal, to see visions, to raise the dead. But let me tell you a bitter truth, not all miracles come from God. Not every altar belongs to the Almighty. Some are powered by darkness. And I was their supplier. When I began my mission, the Dark Lords gave me an instruction: find the weak shepherds. Feed them power, but claim their flock. We didn't target known criminals or drunkards. We went for the called, the men with good intentions but no results. They were frustrated young ministers with small fellowships, prayer warriors with no spiritual backing, evangelists tired of poverty, sons of prophets wanting to outshine their fathers. We offered them three things. 1. Crowd. Because without people, a pastor is just a speaker. 2. Miracles. To prove they are anointed. 3. Wealth. Because no one listens to a broke prophet. And all we asked in return was one thing: obedience to the covenant. They never came during the day. They came in the dark, sometimes alone, sometimes in small groups, to abandoned school buildings, unfinished hotels, or my hidden shrine in Occult. Many came through recommendations. Others found me in spiritual forums, online groups where dark pastors hide behind Christian usernames. Before any pastor could receive our power, he had to be reordained in the Spirit. This was not your usual oil anointing or Bible laying ceremony. No. This was the rite of 7 shadows. It was held only on specific dates, when the moon was absent and the owls cried before midnight. In an abandoned colonial mansion near Benin City, a place soaked in centuries of blood. There, the pastors would strip naked, walk through 7 gates made of animal bones, be bathed in a mixture of goat's blood, crocodile bile, and crushed owl eyes, recite an oath written in reverse Latin and swallow a something to bind his tongue to silence. Then, he would kneel before the scroll of thrones, a spiritual ledger where names of dark ministers were written. The high priest would then speak. From now on, your tongue speaks fire, your hands release power, but your soul belongs to the covenant. That was it. The transformation was complete. We never allowed them to go straight to the pulpit after ordination. They had to pass the first test, the blood test. The rules were simple. The pastor must perform a ritual sacrifice that involved someone close. It could be a relative, a firstborn child, or even a church member. The person had to die, either physically or spiritually, to seal the covenant.
You just listened to the confession of a man who walked in darkness for 17 years, who served the altars of blood, who recruited pastors into covenants that destroyed destinies, and yet, mercy found him. If that story didn't shake you, then your spirit is asleep. This is not just a confession. It's a warning. There are pulpits today occupied by men who are spiritually dead, but physically celebrated. There are churches where miracles are manufactured, not ministered. And there are members under manipulation, not ministration. As you've just heard, darkness doesn't give without taking. And what it takes is always more than what it gives. If you are a pastor dabbling in powers that aren't of God, stop now. If you're a member following signs and wonders without discernment, pray now. If you're in the occult and you're tired, run now. Because the time of mercy is still open, but not forever. Join our Telegram community right now. It's more than a chat group, it's a spiritual war room. We share uncensored stories, live prayer sessions, and real-life encounters from people who are escaping the grip of spiritual darkness every day. The link is in the description, don't wait. Also, subscribe to our second YouTube channel. That's where we go even deeper, into teachings, live prayers, testimonies, and investigations you won't see anywhere else. One video could be the difference between deception and deliverance. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth, and most importantly, stay awake. Not every hand laid on you is from God. Not every puppet is heaven sent. This is not entertainment. This is war. And your soul is on the line. Thank you for watching. Stay safe. Stay prayerful. And we'll see you in the continuation of this expose.